I never thought I'd have the guts to talk about this, but here I am, 26 years old, alive, and finally ready to tell you what really happened in that hospital room 3 months ago. My name is Liam Anderson. I'm 26. I work in healthcare management, or at least that's what I told my family for the past 4 years. The truth? I own 3 private hospitals on the West Coast. Started with one small clinic when I was 22. Built it from nothing, sold it, reinvested, grew. By 25, I had enough to buy my first full-scale hospital in Portland. But my father, Joseph, never knew that. He thought I was just some low-level admin guy, filing papers, making coffee, living paycheck to paycheck in a studio apartment I could barely afford. I let him think that. Because the truth is, I learned early on that the less my family knew about my success, the safer I was. Joseph Anderson, 58 years old, retired construction foreman, loud, controlling, the kind of man who believed respect was earned through fear, not love. And my mother? She left when I was 7, packed her bags one Tuesday morning and never looked back. I don't blame her. I would have left too if I could. So it was just me and Joseph, and my older brother Marcus, 31, unemployed, living in Joseph's basement, convinced the world owed him something. For years I kept my head down, worked nights, took online classes, saved every dollar, avoided family dinners, ignored the passive-aggressive texts. You think you're better than us now, college boy? When are you going to stop wasting time and get a real job? I never argued, never defended myself. I just disappeared, until 3 months ago. I was driving home from a board meeting at my newest acquisition, a mid-sized private hospital in downtown Portland. Rain was coming down hard. Visibility was low. I saw the truck too late. The impact flipped my car twice. I remember the sound of metal crushing, the taste of blood, the sirens. Then nothing. I woke up in a hospital bed. My hospital. The one I'd just bought 6 months earlier. But I didn't open my eyes. I could hear voices. Joseph's voice. Loud. Impatient. How long is this going to take? I got things to do. A doctor's voice. Calm. Professional. Sir, your son was in a serious accident. We're monitoring him closely. He's stable, but... Yeah, look, Doc. I'm gonna be straight with you. There was a pause. Don't waste much on him. He doesn't deserve it. I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't move. Didn't open my eyes. Didn't react. The doctor didn't respond right away. I could feel the tension in the room. I'm sorry, sir. Could you repeat that? Joseph sighed, annoyed. I said don't waste much. He's been nothing but a disappointment his whole life. Barely makes minimum wage, no ambition, no future. So if you're thinking about running up some big bill with fancy treatments, don't bother. Just do the basics. Patch him up. Get him out. Silence. I kept my breathing steady, shallow, like I was still unconscious. The doctor cleared his throat. I see. Well, Mr. Anderson, I'll need to step out for a moment, but I'll be back shortly. Joseph grunted. Fine. Just make it quick. The door closed. I lay there in the dark behind my eyelids, heart pounding, mind racing. My own father, standing 3 feet away from me, telling a doctor not to waste resources on his son, not because he couldn't afford it, not because he was scared, but because he thought I wasn't worth it. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sad. I felt something else. Clarity, cold, sharp, undeniable clarity. 10 minutes later, the door opened again. The doctor's footsteps, calm, measured. Mr. Anderson? Joseph looked up. Yeah? I wanted to inform you of something before we proceed. What now? The doctor paused. I could hear the slight shift in his tone. Professional, but with an edge. Sir, your son is the owner of this hospital. Silence. Complete. Absolute. Silence. Then a sound. A scrape. A chair sliding back. Fast. Joseph's voice. Strangled. Disbelieving. What? Liam Anderson. Your son. He purchased this hospital 6 months ago. He's the primary shareholder and CEO of Anderson Medical Group. We all work for him. I heard something hit the floor. Maybe Joseph's phone. Maybe his dignity. I kept my eyes closed. Kept my breathing steady. But inside, I smiled. The doctor continued. So when you said, don't waste much on him, I assumed you were unaware of who you were speaking about. But now that you know, I'll proceed with the best care available. Because that's what Mr. Anderson deserves. and that's what he'll receive. Joseph didn't respond. He couldn't. I heard him stumble toward the door, heard it slam behind him. I opened my eyes slowly. The doctor stood beside my bed, mid-40s, calm, professional. He'd worked for me for 3 months. Doctor Raymond Hayes, Chief of Emergency Medicine. He looked at me, gave a small nod. Welcome back, Mr. Anderson. I nodded. Thanks, Ray. He didn't ask if I'd heard everything. He didn't need to. He just adjusted my IV, checked my vitals, and left the room. I lay there in the quiet, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of what had just happened. My father had shown me exactly who he was, and I'd let him. But now things were different. I reached for the hospital ID badge clipped to the side table, the one I always carried, the one that said Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. I held it in my hand, felt the cool metal, and I knew this was just the beginning. I didn't become successful overnight, and I sure as hell didn't do it with my father's help. Let me take you back, way back, to when I was 19, fresh out of high school, no scholarship, no college fund, no safety net. Just me, a beat-up Honda Civic, and a one-room apartment in the worst part of Portland that I shared with 2 other guys who spent most nights getting high and playing video games. Joseph made it clear the day I turned 18. You're an adult now. Figure it out. No help with tuition, no cosign on a loan. Nothing. Marcus? He got his truck paid off, got his rent covered for 2 years while he figured things out. He never did. But me? I was on my own. So I worked. Night shifts at a 24-hour diner. Weekends doing inventory at a medical supply warehouse. Any shift I could get, I took it. I enrolled in community college, business administration, took classes online between shifts, slept 4 hours a night, lived on ramen and black coffee. Joseph would call every few months, never to check on me, always to complain. Your brother needs help with his truck. I need you to cover Marcus's phone bill this month. Why can't you be more helpful to this family? I sent money when I could, not because I wanted to, but because saying no meant hearing about it for weeks. By the time I was 21, I'd saved $11,000. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I'd been working at that medical supply warehouse for almost 3 years. I knew the industry inside out, knew the markups, knew the waste, knew the gaps. One night, my manager, an older guy named Tom, pulled me aside. Kid, you're smart. Why are you still here? I shrugged. Paying the bills. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. Smart guys don't work for the system. They build their own. 2 weeks later, I quit. I used that $11,000 to start a small medical supply consulting business. Just me, a laptop, a phone, and a lot of cold calls. I helped small clinics optimize their supply orders, cut costs, reduce waste. I charged a flat fee, $500 per consultation. It was slow at first, but I was good at it. And word spread. By 22, I was making 6 figures. By 23, I had 10 employees. By 24, I sold the consulting firm to a private equity group for $1.2 million. I didn't tell Joseph, didn't tell Marcus, didn't tell anyone. I took that money and bought a struggling urgent care clinic on the east side of Portland. It was losing money, bad management, high turnover, poor patient reviews. I spent 6 months fixing it. New staff, new systems, better care, lower costs. Within a year, it was profitable. Within 2 years, I sold it for $3.5 million. That's when I bought my first hospital. Not a small clinic, a full hospital. 60 beds, emergency department, surgery wing, the whole thing. It was underwater financially. The previous owner was desperate. I got it for $8 million. Spent another $2 million renovating and restructuring. By the time I turned 26, it was worth $23 million. And I didn't stop there. I bought 2 more hospitals, smaller ones, both on the West Coast, both profitable within 18 months. I was worth $40 million. But my family? They thought I was some low-level hospital admin making $45,000 a year. I kept it that way on purpose, because every time I saw Joseph, every time I heard his voice, I remembered what he said when I was 18. Figure it out. So I did. I figured it out without him, without his approval, without his help, and I built something he could never touch. I kept my apartment, the same studio I'd lived in since I was 19, $1,200 a month, small, simple. No one would ever guess I owned 3 hospitals. I drove the same Honda Civic, wore the same jeans and hoodies, ate at the same cheap diners. I didn't do it to be humble. I did it to stay invisible. Because the moment my family knew I had money, they'd want it. And I wasn't ready to deal with that, not yet. So I kept working, kept growing, kept quiet. I'd see Joseph maybe twice a year. Thanksgiving, Christmas, awkward dinners where Marcus would complain about his life and Joseph would lecture me about wasting my potential. I'd nod, smile, leave early, and then I'd drive back to my real life, the one they knew nothing about. The hospital ID badge stayed in my glove compartment. I never wore it around them, never mentioned my work, never slipped up. Until the accident. Until that moment in the hospital room when Joseph stood 3 feet away and told a doctor I wasn't worth the cost. That's when everything changed. Because I realized something important. I didn't need his approval anymore. I didn't need his validation. I didn't need anything from him. But he was about to need something from me. And I wasn't sure I was going to give it. The first 48 hours after the accident were quiet. Too quiet. Joseph didn't come back to the hospital. No calls, no texts, nothing. Marcus showed up once, walked into my room like he owned the place, looked around, whistled low. Nice setup they got you in here. Private room and everything. I was sitting up in bed, ribs still sore, head still pounding, but functional. Yeah, they're taking good care of me. Marcus pulled up a chair, leaned back, crossed his arms. So, Dad told me something interesting. I didn't respond, just waited. He said you own this place, that true? I nodded. Yeah, it's true. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed, not a happy laugh, a bitter one. You've been lying to us for years. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you. Same thing. I shook my head. No, it's not. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed. Why? Because it was none of your business. His jaw tightened. We're family, Liam. Are we? That stopped him. He sat back, looked away. Dad's pissed. You embarrassed him. I didn't do anything. He embarrassed himself. Marcus didn't argue. He knew it was true. We sat in silence for a minute. Then he stood up. Look, I'm not going to pretend I'm not jealous. You got your shit together. I didn't. But we're still brothers. And Dad's still Dad. You can't just cut us off now. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He was 31. Still living in Joseph's basement. Still unemployed. Still waiting for someone else to fix his life. And for the first time, I didn't feel sorry for him. I felt nothing. I'm not cutting anyone off, Marcus. But I'm not bailing anyone out either. Not anymore. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done. Done sending money. Done covering bills. Done pretending I owe you guys something. His face went red. So that's it? You get rich and forget about your family? No. I got rich and realized my family forgot about me a long time ago. He stood there for a moment, fists clenched. Then he turned and walked out, slammed the door behind him. I sat there in the silence, staring at the closed door. That was the first crack, the first real sign that this wasn't going to end quietly. 2 days later, I was discharged. Dr. Hayes signed off on my release, gave me a list of restrictions. No heavy lifting, no driving for a week, no stress. I laughed at that last one. I went back to my apartment, same studio, same furniture, same life, but something felt different. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Then I realized, for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was hiding. I didn't feel like I had to keep my head down, keep my success a secret, keep pretending I was less than I was. Joseph knew now. Marcus knew. And I didn't care. That felt good. Really good. For about 3 days. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Joseph's voice. We need to talk. I didn't respond right away. Just listened. I made a mistake at the hospital. I didn't know. I shouldn't have what, Dad? Told the doctor I wasn't worth it? Or shouldn't have said it out loud? More silence. Look, I was upset. You were in an accident. I wasn't thinking straight. You were thinking perfectly straight. You just didn't know I could hear you. He exhaled, hard, frustrated. Fine, you're right. I screwed up. But we're still family. And family forgives. Do they? What do you want from me, Liam? You want me to beg? No, I don't want anything from you. Bullshit. Everyone wants something. I smiled, cold, sharp. Not anymore. He paused. Then his tone changed, harder, more direct. Your brother needs help. There it was. Marcus is 31, Dad. He doesn't need help. He needs to grow up. He's struggling. Lost his last job. Behind on his truck payment. I can't keep covering him. Then don't. Liam. No. I'm done. You want to help him? Help him. But don't call me expecting me to fix it. Joseph's voice dropped. Low, threatening. You think you're better than us now? Think your money makes you special? No. I think my money makes me independent. And that scares you. He didn't respond. I could hear him breathing. Heavy. Angry. You're making a mistake, son. I'm not your son, Joseph. I'm just the guy you told a doctor not to waste money on. I hung up. Sat there in the quiet. Holding my phone. Feeling the weight of what I'd just done. I'd drawn a line. A clear, undeniable line. And I knew Joseph wouldn't accept it. But I also knew something else. I had leverage now. Power. Resources. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to use them. I reached for the hospital ID badge sitting on my desk. Ran my thumb over the smooth surface. Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. That wasn't just a title anymore. It was armor. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. I thought Joseph would back off, accept the boundary, move on. I was wrong. The calls started 3 days later. Not from Joseph, from Marcus. Hey, look, I know things got heated, but I really need your help. I was at my desk in the main hospital, going through quarterly financials. I put him on speaker. What do you need, Marcus? My truck. They're gonna repo it if I don't come up with $2,000 by Friday. I didn't respond right away. Just kept scrolling through the report. Liam, you there? Yeah, I'm here. So can you help me out? Just this once. I'll pay you back. I'd heard that line before. 100 times. He never paid anyone back. No. Silence. What do you mean, no? I mean, no, I'm not giving you $2,000. His voice shifted. Defensive. Angry. Seriously? You're worth millions and you can't help your own brother? I can. I'm choosing not to. Why? Because you're 31 years old, Marcus. And you've never once taken responsibility for your own life. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You've had a decade to figure it out. You didn't. That's not my problem. He hung up. I sat there for a moment, staring at the phone, waiting for the guilt to hit. It didn't. 2 days later, Joseph called again. Your brother lost his truck. I was at home, making coffee. I put the phone on the counter, didn't pick it up. You hear me? He lost his truck. He can't get to work now. He doesn't have a job, Dad. He's looking. He's been looking for 3 years. Joseph's voice got louder, sharper. You could have helped him. $2,000. That's nothing to you. It's not about the money. Then what's it about? It's about the fact that you only call me when you need something. Not to check on me. Not to see how I'm doing. Just when you need money. Silence. Then his voice dropped. Cold. Calculated. You're gonna regret this. Maybe. But at least I'll regret it on my own terms. He hung up. I stood there in my kitchen, holding my coffee mug, feeling the knot in my chest tighten. Part of me wanted to cave, wanted to send the money, keep the peace, make it all go away. But I didn't, because I knew what would happen if I did. Marcus would come back in a month, then 2 months, then 3, and it would never stop. So I held the line, even when it hurt, even when I felt like the bad guy. A week later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is your Aunt Linda. Your father told me what you did to Marcus. I'm disappointed in you. Family comes first. I stared at the message. Linda, Joseph's sister. I hadn't talked to her in 5 years. I didn't respond. Then another text. From a cousin. Then another from an old family friend. All the same message. Different words. Same meaning. You're a bad son. You're selfish. You abandoned your family. Joseph was spreading the story, twisting it, making me the villain. And people believed him. Because that's what families do. They believe the loudest voice, not the truth. I turned off my phone, sat in the silence. This was the part I hated most. The part where I had to choose between my peace and their approval. And I'd already made my choice, but it still felt like shit. Dr. Hayes called me into his office 2 days later. Liam, you got a minute? I walked in, closed the door. He gestured to a chair. I wanted to check in, see how you're doing. I shrugged. I'm fine. He didn't look convinced. Your father called the hospital yesterday. I froze. What? He called, asked to speak to me, wanted to know about your medical records, your financial standing, your position here. My jaw tightened. What did you tell him? Nothing. HIPAA laws, privacy protections. I told him I couldn't discuss any of that without your written consent. I exhaled. Thanks. He leaned back in his chair, studied me. Liam, I've known you for almost a year now. You're a good guy. Smart. Fair. But you're also carrying something heavy, and it's starting to show. I didn't respond. Whatever's going on with your family, don't let it compromise who you are. Don't let them pull you into their mess. I nodded. I won't. But even as I said it, I knew it was too late. They were already pulling, and I was already sinking. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the hospital ID badge on my desk. Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. It should have felt like power, like proof that I'd made it. But instead, it felt like a target, because now they knew, and they wanted in, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep them out. 3 weeks after the accident, I found the first piece of evidence. I was going through my bank statements. Routine check. Nothing unusual. Except there was something unusual. A withdrawal. $1,500. From my personal checking account. I didn't make that withdrawal. I called the bank immediately. Mr. Anderson, let me pull up your account. One moment. I waited. Heart starting to pound. Yes, I see the transaction. It was made at our downtown branch. In person. With proper identification. What kind of identification? Driver's license. And your debit card. I didn't make that withdrawal. Pause. Sir, the transaction was verified. The person who made the withdrawal provided your card and ID. I have my card right here. And my ID. Longer pause. I see. In that case, I'm going to flag this as potential fraud. We'll start an investigation immediately. Can you come into the branch today? I was already grabbing my keys. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I drove downtown, walked into the bank, met with the branch manager, a woman in her 40s named Sarah Chen. She pulled up the security footage from 3 weeks ago, the day after I was discharged from the hospital, and there he was, Marcus, walking up to the counter, handing over a card, smiling, casual, like he did this every day. The teller didn't question it. Why would she? He had the card. He had ID. Everything looked legitimate, except it wasn't my card, and it wasn't my ID. Do you know this person? Sarah asked. Yeah, that's my brother. Her expression shifted. Professional sympathy. I'm so sorry, Mr. Anderson. This is identity theft. We'll need to file a police report. I stared at the screen, watching Marcus walk out of the bank. $1,500 richer. Money he stole from me. Mr. Anderson? I turned to Sarah. How did he get my card? I don't know. But if he had access to your wallet or personal belongings, he was in my apartment. It hit me all at once. When I was in the hospital. When I was unconscious. Someone had gone into my apartment. Marcus had a key. I'd given it to him years ago. Emergency purposes. Never changed the locks. He'd gone in, taken my debit card, taken my ID, made copies, and then used them to steal from me. What do you want to do? Sarah asked. I took a deep breath. File the report. I want everything documented. She nodded. We'll start the process immediately, and we'll issue you new cards, new account numbers, everything. I left the bank an hour later. New debit card in my wallet. Police report filed. But I didn't feel relief. I felt cold. Because this wasn't just about $1,500. This was about trust, access, violation. Marcus had been in my home, gone through my things, stolen from me. And he'd done it while I was lying in a hospital bed. I drove to my apartment, walked inside, looked around. Everything looked normal, nothing out of place. But I knew. He'd been here. I went to my desk, opened the drawer where I kept important documents, my passport, my social security card, my birth certificate, all still there. But something felt off. I checked my laptop, password protected, no signs of tampering. Then I checked my filing cabinet, the one where I kept business documents, contracts, financial records. The lock was broken, not obviously, but if you looked close, you could see it. The mechanism was bent, forced open. Someone had gone through my files. I pulled out the folders, started checking. Hospital acquisition contracts, investment portfolios, bank statements from my business accounts. Everything was still there, but copies could have been made. Photos could have been taken. I sat down on the floor, back against the wall, trying to process. Marcus hadn't just stolen $1,500. He'd stolen information, financial information, business information, information that could be used against me. I grabbed my phone, called my lawyer, a guy named Tom Rivera, sharp, efficient, no nonsense. Tom, I need you to run a credit check, full background. See if anyone's tried to open accounts in my name. What's going on? Identity theft, family member. I need to know how deep this goes. I'm on it. Give me 24 hours. I hung up, sat there in the quiet. The hospital ID badge was still on my desk. I picked it up, held it. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. And they'd fired the first shot. Tom Rivera called me back 18 hours later. Liam, we need to meet. In person. His voice was tight, controlled. That wasn't good. How bad is it? Not over the phone. Can you come to my office? I was there in 30 minutes. Tom's office was downtown. 15th floor, glass walls, city views. He met me at the door. Come in, sit down. I sat. He closed the door, pulled out a folder, thick, at least 50 pages. I ran the credit check like you asked, and then I kept digging. He opened the folder, slid it across the desk. 3 credit card applications, all in your name. All submitted in the last 2 weeks. I stared at the documents. My name, my social security number, my birth date, but not my signature. 2 were approved. 1 was declined due to income verification issues. The approved cards have a combined limit of $30,000. My jaw tightened. How much has been charged? Tom flipped to the next page. 12,000 so far. Electronics, cash advances, online purchases. I felt my chest tighten, not panic. Something colder. That's not all, Tom continued. Someone tried to access your business accounts, your LLC, Anderson Medical Group. I looked up. What? They attempted to add themselves as an authorized signer, used forged documents. Your bank caught it and flagged it. But the attempt was made. Who? Tom slid another document across the desk. Joseph Anderson, listed as father and business partner. He's not my business partner. I know. That's why the bank rejected it. But he tried. And he would have succeeded if your bank didn't have strong fraud protocols. I sat back, stared at the ceiling, trying to process. Marcus had stolen my identity, opened credit cards, racked up debt in my name, and Joseph had tried to gain access to my business, my hospitals, my company, everything I'd built. There's more, Tom said quietly. I looked at him. He pulled out another document, a legal filing, dated 5 days ago. Your father filed a civil claim against you, small claims court, $5,000. He's claiming you owe him money for loans and financial support provided during your formative years. I laughed, cold, bitter. He never gave me $1. I know, but he filed it anyway. It's scheduled for a hearing in 6 weeks. I rubbed my face, felt the exhaustion setting in. What do I do? Tom leaned forward, hands folded, professional, direct. You have 3 options. 1. Let this play out in court. Fight the claims, win. But it'll be public, messy, time-consuming. Option 2. Settle. Pay him off. Make it go away quietly. No. He nodded. I didn't think so. Option 3. You go on offense. You file charges, identity theft, fraud, forgery. You press every legal button you have, and you make it hurt. I sat there in silence, thinking. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about control, power, revenge. They'd seen my success and decided they were entitled to it, not because they'd helped me build it, but because we shared blood. And when I refused, they didn't accept it. They attacked. Tom, I want everything documented, every transaction, every forged signature, every attempted access. I want a case so airtight they can't wiggle out of it. He nodded. Done. What about the criminal charges? I paused, thought about it. Charging Marcus with identity theft meant police, courts, jail time potentially. Charging Joseph with fraud meant the same. They were my family, my blood. But they'd stopped treating me like family the moment they decided to steal from me. File the charges, all of them. Tom didn't hesitate. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. I stood up, shook his hand. Thanks, Tom. He walked me to the door, stopped, looked at me. Liam, this is going to get ugly. They're not going to go quietly. I know. Are you ready for that? I thought about Joseph's voice in that hospital room. Don't waste much on him. He doesn't deserve it. I thought about Marcus walking into that bank, stealing from me while I was still recovering. I thought about the broken lock on my filing cabinet, the forged documents, the lies. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. I left Tom's office, walked to my car, sat behind the wheel. The hospital ID badge was in my pocket. I pulled it out, stared at it. Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. This wasn't just a title anymore. It was proof. Proof that I'd built something real, something valuable, something worth protecting. And I wasn't going to let them take it. Not Joseph, not Marcus, not anyone. I started the car, drove home, and for the first time since the accident, I didn't feel conflicted. I felt clear, cold, focused, certain. They wanted a war, they were going to get one. The police came to Joseph's house 6 days later. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. Marcus called me 15 times. I didn't answer. Then Joseph called, voice shaking, furious. What the hell did you do? I was in my office going through hospital reports. I put him on speaker. I protected myself. You called the cops on your own brother? I reported a crime. Marcus committed identity theft, fraud. He stole from me. He needed help. He needed to face consequences. Joseph's voice cracked, not with sadness, with rage. You're destroying this family. No, Dad. You destroyed it a long time ago. I'm just done pretending it's still whole. Silence. Then his voice dropped. Low. Venomous. You're gonna regret this. I promise you that. Maybe. But at least I'll sleep at night. I hung up. Sat there in the quiet, waiting for the guilt to come. It didn't. 3 days later, Tom called. Marcus was arrested. Booked on identity theft and fraud charges. He made bail, $2,000. Your father posted it. What about the civil claim Joseph filed? Still scheduled. But given the criminal charges against Marcus, I doubt Joseph's case holds any weight now. We can file for dismissal. Do it. Liam, there's something else. I straightened. What? Your father hired a lawyer. Guy named Ron Kepler. Former prosecutor. Aggressive. Expensive. Joseph doesn't have that kind of money. He does now. He took out a loan against his house. $30,000. I closed my eyes. Exhaled. Joseph was going all in. Betting everything on winning. What's his play? He's claiming you manipulated Marcus, that you withheld family support intentionally to create a crisis, that Marcus only acted out of desperation because you abandoned the family. I laughed. Bitter. Cold. That's insane. I know, but he's going to try to make it stick. He'll paint you as the villain, the rich son who turned his back on his struggling family. Let him try. Tom paused. Liam, this is going to get public. Court filings are public record. If the media picks this up, I don't care. Your hospitals, your reputation. This could affect Tom. I built my reputation on doing the right thing, on being fair, on holding people accountable. If people can't see that I'm doing the same thing with my own family, that's their problem, not mine. He was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, I'll file the motions. We go to trial in 4 weeks. I hung up, stood, walked to the window, looked out over the city. Portland, rain-soaked, gray, familiar. I'd built something here. 3 hospitals, hundreds of employees, thousands of patients. And now my own father was trying to tear it down. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I'd refused to let him and Marcus bleed me dry. That night I got an email from Marcus. Subject line, "You happy now?" I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. I opened it. "You got me arrested. Dad had to post bail. He's losing his house because of you. All because you couldn't help your own family. I hope you're proud of yourself. I hope your money keeps you warm at night because you're never going to have us again." I read it twice, then closed the laptop. Marcus was right about one thing. I was never going to have them again. But that wasn't a loss. It was a relief. The next morning, I got a call from Dr. Hayes. Liam, we need to talk. I walked down to his office. He closed the door. I got a call this morning from a journalist, Portland Tribune. They're running a story about you and your family, about the charges against your brother, about your father's lawsuit. My stomach tightened. When? Tomorrow. Front page, business section. I sat down, rubbed my face. What did you tell them? Nothing. I referred them to your legal team. But Liam, they already have the story. Court records, interviews with people who know your family. They're framing it as local healthcare CEO presses charges against family. That's accurate. I know, but it doesn't sound good. I looked at him. Ray, do you think I did the right thing? He didn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely. Then I can live with how it sounds. He nodded. Fair enough, but be prepared. This is going to blow up. He was right. The article came out the next day. Front page, business section. Healthcare CEO Liam Anderson files criminal charges against brother, faces lawsuit from father. They laid it all out. The identity theft, the fraud, the attempted business account access, Joseph's civil claim. They interviewed neighbors, old coworkers, family friends. Half of them said I was justified. The other half said I was heartless. By noon, my phone was flooded. Reporters, colleagues, friends I hadn't talked to in years. I didn't answer any of them. I sat in my office, door closed, looking at the hospital ID badge on my desk. Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. This was the cost, not money, not time, exposure, judgment, public scrutiny. People were going to have opinions. Some would support me, some would condemn me. But I'd done what I had to do, and I'd do it again. The media storm lasted 3 days. Then it got quiet. Too quiet. I learned a long time ago that silence is more dangerous than noise. Noise means people are talking, reacting, processing. Silence means people are planning. I was in my office when Tom called. Liam, Joseph's lawyer filed a motion to dismiss the criminal charges against Marcus. On what grounds? Lack of intent. They're claiming Marcus believed he had permission to access your accounts, that there was implied family consent. I leaned back in my chair. That's garbage. I know, but it's a strategy. They're trying to reframe this as a family misunderstanding rather than a crime. What are our chances? Good. We have security footage, forged documents, clear evidence of fraud, but they're going to make this messy. Character witnesses, family testimony. They'll try to make you look like the aggressor. Let them try. Tom paused. There's something else. Joseph withdrew the civil claim. I sat up. Why? I don't know. But he filed the withdrawal yesterday. No explanation. Just dropped it. That didn't make sense. Joseph didn't back down. Ever. If he withdrew the claim, it meant he had a different play. Tom, I need you to dig. Find out what he's planning. Already on it. I'll call you when I know more. I hung up. Sat there thinking. Joseph was smart, manipulative, but not sophisticated. If he was pulling back, it meant someone else was advising him. Someone with legal knowledge. Someone with strategy. Ron Kepler, his lawyer. I opened my laptop, started researching. Ron Kepler, 53 years old, former prosecutor, now defense attorney, specialized in civil litigation, high-profile cases, win rate 72%. This guy was good, and Joseph had mortgaged his house to afford him. That meant Joseph was betting everything on one big move. I just didn't know what it was yet. 2 days later, I found out. I got served with papers, not criminal, not civil, a restraining order, filed by Joseph Anderson against Liam Anderson. Grounds: harassment, intimidation, and financial abuse. I read it 3 times, each time more surreal than the last. Joseph was claiming I'd threatened him, intimidated him, used my financial position to coerce and control the family. It was complete fiction, but it was smart, because a restraining order would keep me away from Joseph, away from Marcus, away from any direct contact, which meant I couldn't defend myself in person, couldn't confront them, couldn't gather evidence. It was a legal wall, and Joseph was hiding behind it. I called Tom immediately. I just got served. I know, I got a copy. This is Kepler's move. He's trying to isolate you, make you look like the aggressor before the criminal trial. Can he do that? He already did. You have a hearing in 10 days. You'll need to respond. Prove these allegations are false. They are false. I know. But we need evidence. Witnesses, documentation, anything that shows you haven't harassed or threatened Joseph. I thought about it. What about the hospital security footage? The bank footage? The police reports? Good, but we need more. We need character witnesses, people who can testify to your integrity. I nodded. I'll get them. I hung up, made a list. Dr. Hayes, my chief of staff at the hospital, Sarah Chen, the bank manager who handled the fraud case, 3 employees who'd worked with me for years, 2 colleagues from my consulting days, people who knew me, knew my character, knew I wasn't the person Joseph was claiming I was. I reached out to all of them, explained the situation, asked if they'd testify. Every single one said yes. No hesitation, no questions. Just, of course, whatever you need. That's when I realized something. I'd spent so many years keeping my success quiet, keeping my distance, protecting myself from my family. But in doing that, I'd built something else, a network, a reputation, a community of people who trusted me, people who saw who I really was. And that was more powerful than anything Joseph could say about me. The hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I showed up in a suit, clean-shaven, calm. Joseph was there with Ron Kepler. Marcus sat in the back row, arms crossed, glaring. The judge was a woman in her 60s, Judge Patricia Huang, known for being fair but tough. Kepler went first, painted me as a cold, calculating son who'd abandoned his family in their time of need, who'd used his wealth as a weapon, who'd threatened and intimidated them into silence. He presented text messages, out of context, cherry-picked. I'm done. Don't call me again. You're on your own. He made it sound like threats, like cruelty. Tom stood, presented our side, the security footage of Marcus stealing from the bank, the forged credit card applications, the attempted business account access, the police reports, character witnesses, Dr. Hayes, Sarah Chen, my employees. Each one testified to my integrity, my professionalism, my fairness. Judge Huang listened, took notes, asked questions, then she made her ruling. Mr. Anderson, she looked at Joseph, your claims of harassment and intimidation are not supported by the evidence. The communications you've presented are consistent with boundary setting, not threats. The restraining order is denied. Joseph's face went red. Kepler whispered something to him. He nodded. Judge Huang continued. However, I am ordering both parties to refrain from direct contact pending the resolution of the criminal case against Marcus Anderson. No calls, no texts, no in-person meetings. She looked at me. Mr. Anderson, now addressing me, you've conducted yourself appropriately throughout these proceedings. But I want to be clear. This is a family matter that has escalated into legal action. I encourage both parties to seek mediation once the criminal case is resolved. I nodded. Understood, Your Honor. She dismissed the court. I walked out. Tom beside me. That was a win, he said. Doesn't feel like it. Trust me, it is. Joseph tried to isolate you, failed. Tried to paint you as the villain. Failed. The criminal case against Marcus is still solid, we're in good shape. I nodded, but I didn't feel relief, because I knew Joseph wasn't done. He'd lost this battle, but he wasn't the type to accept defeat. He was the type to escalate, and I needed to be ready. I went back to my office, sat at my desk, pulled out the hospital ID badge. Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. I'd built this, protected this, defended this, and I wasn't going to stop now. I opened my laptop, started making a plan. Not a defensive plan, an offensive one, because I'd learned something important. You don't win wars by defending. You win by making the other side wish they'd never started one. The criminal trial started 6 weeks later. Marcus showed up in a cheap suit, hair slicked back, trying to look sympathetic. Joseph sat behind him, stone-faced, arms crossed. Ron Kepler opened with the same strategy he'd used before. Marcus was desperate, unemployed, struggling. His younger brother had millions and refused to help. So Marcus made a mistake. A bad decision born from desperation, not malice. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Kepler said, voice smooth, practiced. This is not a story about crime. This is a story about family, about abandonment, about a young man who felt he had nowhere else to turn. I sat in the gallery, watching, listening. Tom had told me not to react, not to show emotion, just observe. So I did. The prosecution went next. Assistant DA named Rebecca Cho, mid-30s, sharp, no nonsense. She presented the evidence, security footage, forged documents, credit card statements, bank records. This is not a story about family, she said. This is a story about theft, about fraud, about a man who systematically stole his brother's identity, racked up $12,000 in fraudulent charges, and showed no remorse. She called witnesses. Sarah Chen from the bank, the credit card fraud investigator, a handwriting expert who confirmed the signatures were forged. Then she called me. I walked to the stand, took the oath, sat down. Rebecca approached. Mr. Anderson, can you describe your relationship with your brother, Marcus? I kept my voice steady, calm, distant. We didn't talk much, maybe a few times a year. Did you ever give Marcus permission to access your bank accounts? No. Did you ever give him permission to use your credit cards? No. Did you ever give him permission to apply for credit in your name? No. She nodded. Thank you. Kepler stood for cross-examination. Mr. Anderson, you own 3 hospitals. Is that correct? Yes. Your net worth is approximately $40 million. Is that correct? I don't discuss my personal finances publicly. But it's close, isn't it? Tom stood. Objection. Relevance. The judge nodded. Sustained. Move on, Mr. Kepler. Kepler smiled. Mr. Anderson, when your brother asked you for $2,000 to save his truck, you refused, correct? Correct. You could have easily afforded it, correct? That's not relevant. It's absolutely relevant. You had the means to help your family, but you chose not to. And that choice drove your brother to desperation. I looked at him, direct, unflinching. My brother is 31 years old. He's had a decade to take responsibility for his own life. I'm not responsible for his choices. And he's not entitled to my money just because we share DNA. Kepler's smile faded. No further questions. I stepped down. The trial continued for 3 more days. Witnesses, evidence, arguments. But the outcome was never in doubt. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Identity theft. Fraud. Forgery. Marcus was sentenced to 18 months. Eligible for parole after 9 with good behavior. Joseph didn't make a sound. Just stood. Walked out of the courtroom. Marcus looked at me as they led him away in handcuffs. Not angry. Not defiant. Just empty. I didn't feel satisfaction. Didn't feel vindication. Just tired. 2 weeks later, Tom called. Liam, I have an update on Joseph. I was at home, making dinner. I put the phone on speaker. What's going on? He defaulted on the loan he took out to pay Kepler. The bank foreclosed on his house. He's got 60 days to vacate. I stopped chopping vegetables, stood there, silent. Liam, you there? Yeah. I'm here. There's more. Marcus's legal fees, court costs, restitution payments to you. Joseph co-signed everything. He's liable for all of it. Approximately $65,000. I exhaled. Where's he going to go? I don't know. He doesn't have family locally. No savings. No income. I sat down, stared at the wall. This was the karma. The consequence. Joseph had bet everything on attacking me, on proving I was the villain, on winning. And he'd lost everything. His house, his money, his son. Not because I'd destroyed him, but because he'd destroyed himself. Tom, is there anything I'm legally obligated to do? No, you don't owe him anything. The court made that clear. Okay, thanks. I hung up, sat there in the quiet. I thought about calling Joseph, offering help, offering something, but then I remembered. Don't waste much on him. He doesn't deserve it. Those words, in that hospital room, standing over me while I lay there unconscious. That was who Joseph was. And I didn't owe him anything. A month later, I heard through a mutual contact that Joseph had moved in with his sister in Nevada, Aunt Linda, the one who'd texted me calling me selfish. Apparently she wasn't thrilled about it. Marcus got transferred to a minimum security facility, started his sentence. I didn't visit, didn't write, didn't send money for commissary. I moved on, changed my locks, changed my passwords, changed my banking setup, added security cameras to my apartment. I protected myself, protected my business, protected my peace. And slowly, life went back to normal. The hospitals continued to operate, grew, expanded. I hired more staff. opened a new clinic in Eugene. My reputation recovered. The media moved on to other stories. People who mattered. Colleagues, employees, friends. They knew the truth. And that was enough. One afternoon, 6 months after the trial, I was walking through the main hospital, doing rounds, checking in with departments. Dr. Hayes stopped me in the hallway. "Liam, got a minute?" We stepped into his office. "I wanted to thank you," he said. I frowned. "For what?" "For handling everything the way you did, with your family. It couldn't have been easy, but you never let it affect your work, never let it compromise this place. That takes strength." I nodded. "Thanks, Ray." He smiled. "You're gonna be okay, kid." I believed him, because for the first time in months, I felt okay. Not happy, not triumphant, just okay. And that was more than enough. It's been 2 years since the accident. 2 years since I heard those words in the hospital room. Don't waste much on him. He doesn't deserve it. Sometimes I still think about that moment. Lying there, eyes closed, listening to my father tell a doctor I wasn't worth the investment. But now, when I think about it, I don't feel anger. I feel clarity. Because that moment showed me something I'd been avoiding for years. My family didn't love me. They tolerated me. And only when it was convenient. When I had nothing, they ignored me. When I had something, they wanted to take it. That's not family. That's exploitation. And once I accepted that, everything else became easier. Marcus got out on parole 8 months ago. I heard he's living in Seattle now, working construction, staying clean. I hope that's true. I really do. Not because I forgive him, but because I don't wish him harm. I just don't wish him anything. Joseph is still in Nevada. Last I heard, he's working part-time at a hardware store, barely making rent. Aunt Linda kicked him out after 6 months. Something about him being difficult, ungrateful. Ironic, isn't it? I don't talk to him, don't check on him, don't think about him unless someone brings it up. And that's fine, because I learned something important through all of this. You don't owe people a relationship just because you share blood. You don't owe people forgiveness just because they're family. You owe yourself peace, safety, respect. And if protecting those things means cutting people out, then that's what you do, without guilt, without apology. My life now is different, simpler, quieter, better. I still own the 3 hospitals, still work too many hours, still drink too much coffee. But I also have friends now, real ones, people who show up because they want to, not because they need something. I have colleagues who respect me, employees who trust me, patients who thank me. I have a life I built on my own terms, and no one can take that from me. Last month I was doing rounds at the main hospital, the one where all of this started. I walked past the emergency department, saw Dr. Hayes talking to a patient's family. Calm, professional, reassuring. I kept walking, stopped at the administration wing, looked at the wall. There's a plaque there now, installed last year. Anderson Medical Group, founded 2019, committed to compassionate care, ethical leadership, and community health. I stood there for a moment, reading it. That plaque represents everything I worked for, everything I protected, and it's still standing. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the hospital ID badge, the one I've carried since the beginning. Liam Anderson, CEO, Anderson Medical Group. It's worn now. The edges are scratched. The photo's faded. But it's still mine, and that's what matters. I don't know what happened to Joseph's house. Someone else owns it now. Some other family. I don't know if Marcus thinks about what he did, if he regrets it, if he's learned anything. I don't know if Joseph ever realized that his words in that hospital room were the beginning of the end. And honestly, I don't care, because my story isn't about them anymore. It's about me, about the kid who worked night shifts and lived on ramen, about the guy who built something from nothing. About the man who learned that sometimes the hardest thing you can do is walk away from people who hurt you, even when they're family, especially when they're family. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, here's what I want you to know. You're not the bad guy for protecting yourself. You're not selfish for setting boundaries. You're not cruel for refusing to be used. You deserve respect. You deserve honesty. You deserve peace. And if the people in your life can't give you that, then they don't deserve access to you. It's that simple. 2 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, pretending to be unconscious while my father told a doctor I wasn't worth it. Today, I own that hospital. and I'm worth $43 million. But the money isn't what matters. What matters is that I'm free. Free from guilt. Free from obligation. Free from people who saw me as a resource instead of a person. And that freedom? That's priceless. My name is Liam Anderson. I'm 28 years old. And this is what really happened.